Michael, good morning.
Yeah, still haven't made that cheat sheet
Yeah.
to know where in the world everybody is and what time it is there.
Here it's 3 p.m. So and the temperature is reasonable for the moment, so
Oh,
it's
good.
okay. It's a little bit more cloudy. The heat, the heat is gone for at least one day.
Nice.
Mm.
Nice. Yeah, it is nice and cool and cloudy here as well. Um, Probably won't last all day, but we'll take it while
Oh,
we can.
okay. So over here it was. We had some holiday. The kids around, all the kids around. Um,
Very nice.
but the result is, yeah, after the holiday,
Mm-hmm.
customers called me with something urgent, and yeah, Jinaga
Yeah.
was the last thing that was on my list. So
Yeah. Well,
I want
well,
I want to make.
yeah. One of these days, all of those all of those tech support problems will now be Janaga problems. So
Yeah,
yeah, they won't
that
go
would be
away.
nice. That would be nice. Yeah, because I was still busy with some old synchronization stuff, uh, which is based on that Microsoft Sync framework,
Mm-hmm.
um, where customers after a certain retention period, um, so they lose the metadata. You can
Mm.
set up how long you want to keep the metadata. But once they go over that, in my case, 3 weeks period,
Mm.
the metadata is erased, and so they cannot sync anymore. And for years, I keep telling them, before you go on holiday,
Uh-huh.
sync. Be sure that all your work is in the server. But
Yeah.
every holiday, there are people who don't do it, and then they call and then they say, "I cannot sync anymore."
Yeah, and make sure that your holiday is not more than 3 weeks. So
Yeah,
that could be a problem too.
but so I was still making a little tool to import databases which were not within that retention period, because otherwise they have to retype all the information first,
Mm-hmm.
find out which data is not at the server, and then type over everything. But
Mm.
with historical modeling, we will not have that problem.
Yeah, true, because the metadata is the data.
Yeah.
So if you lose
So
that, then you don't have
you,
anything.
mhm.
but uh, but yeah, um, it will it will allow it to be out of sync for as long as it has to be.
Mhm.
Um, which means now it's up to you as an application developer to figure out what it means when you see uh, concurrent edits.
You see somebody who quit the company and then comes back after 2 years
Yep.
with all data. No, that's not the purpose.
Yep.
Yeah. No, but I was hoping to update a little bit to work on that diagram in Jinaga dot. It was in the Jinaga.net
Mm-hmm.
documentation, but so I didn't do anything on it. Um, but it's still on my list. Um, did you have something that
Yeah, I had a
you wanted
few
to share?
things to add to the agenda. So I'm keeping some notes over here to the side um, about what we want to talk about today. Um, so yeah, I added update the diagram in Janaga.net documentation. A couple of things that happened last week is I
Mm.
launched uh, michaelperry.net.
Ah,
So we'll take a look at that. And then I also added a bit of replicator documentation on
okay.
Janaga.com.
MichaelPerry.net, or is it MichaelLPerry.net?
It is just michaelperry.net. Yes.
No, he doesn't find anything. With a dash in between or an
Nope, no
underscore?
dash. Just all.
Why is he not finding anything?
I'm not certain. Let's take a quick look. So there's my screen, and so now if we go to michaelperry.net,
Yeah, that's strange.
then
I'm having exactly the same over here. Oh, yeah, it will be the same problem again. No W.
oh, that's right.
If you
Yes,
put, yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, this is just the Apex domain. So yeah, I'm using Azure Static Websites to host this one, and
Yeah.
at the moment, Azure Static Websites has a problem with the combination of features of HTTPS and Apex domains. So
Yeah.
so for all of this to work right, Azure Static Websites would need to redirect from www to the Apex domain because it's all behind the certificate. So so my host, my DNS server, I use DN Simple. They won't be able to do that redirection from their side because the browser is going to try to go to www and it's behind HTTPS, and so it's not going to work. But yeah.
But that's nice. You have okay, identity and uniqueness, and then featured courses. That one I haven't. The clean view models with assisticant, that is Pluralsight.
Yeah. And as it happens, these are probably not the courses that I want to feature all the time. It's just as I was building the site with a gentleman from Pakistan, Samid, helped me to put the site together. Yeah, he just randomly chose a few and said, "Okay, let's make these featured. Yeah, let's get it out there."
Okay. And indeed, it goes to Pluralsight for that.
Yep. If you enroll now, you got the Pluralsight link.
Yeah. Okay, but you go for everything through Pluralsight.
For the courses, so there are a few different collections behind this site. So we've got the courses where you see identity and uniqueness. That's a lesson, and then I've also got talks.
Yeah, but this identity and uniqueness, that's one that is available on YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you click on that, you've got the identity and uniqueness lesson featured at the top, but then you also have related lessons. So these are all the
these were a number of very short videos, but very interesting because it's every time just a single subject. Partial order, location, independence. I remember them, and then the talks, mass transit, exploring. Yeah, most of them I remember. That's nice.
Yep. So Sammy did an excellent job. And it is now a Gatsby site that I can just add a markdown file to, and then it will publish a new talk or a new course. In fact, in the time that Samid was working on it, the latest Pluralsight course dropped. So I don't yet have the Entity Framework Core 6 Best Practices course listed up here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the
It's a
featured
matter
course
of.
is cryptography. Got the picture of Claude Shannon up there.
Mhm. Um, but then, wouldn't you link from that site to the other sites, or because there is historical modeling, there is Jinaga, and in the end, there is such a multitude of sites.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, my idea is to start to collapse these a bit. So where it's a truly a different topic and you'd want to go there, then keep it at a separate domain. But where it's something that you want to all be under the Michael Perry umbrella, um, then have it redirect here. So, for example, um, there's also a, um, a a page about the book. So on the front page, if you scroll down, you've got um, just a quick blurb of the book, and put
yeah.
Jeff Doolittle's quote up there. Reaching out to a few other people to see if I can find some more quotes. Um, I do have a page that there's currently not a link to. So I trying to remember what the domain of it is now. Um, it's michaelperry.net slash. Is it the art of immutable architecture? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so at slash the art of immutable architecture, that is the content that is currently up at immutablearchitecture.com,
Yeah.
along with the YouTube channel, the Discord, the Google Calendar. So so I think that what I would like to start doing is redirecting immutablearchitecture.com to this page. So it brings you
Yeah.
to michaelperry.net, but you're here initially for the book, and I'll find a good way to link this to the front page as well, so that you can get more detail. Probably in the in that book section, maybe a call to action or just a link. But yeah.
Because the problem is, before there was already historical modeling and Jinaga,
Mm-hmm.
which should be under the same umbrella. But then you have things like cryptography,
Mm-hmm.
which is an assisticant also, assisticant cryptography, are in fact different subjects. So perhaps you should just have Michael L. Perry as the main site and make subdivisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of them is historical modeling with Jinaga.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Michael L. Perry, historical modeling, and there you have Jinaga and you have correspondence.
Yes. Yeah.
Correspondence just for historical reasons.
Yeah.
Because it's always good that people see that this is not something you invented last week,
Mm-hmm.
but it's something that has been around for years and is the result of a lot of work. Our correspondence cloud is
Yeah.
also still
It's still up.
yeah.
Yeah. So we've got the old videos still up on Vimeo.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, that history is still there. Oh, look, you've got the Silverlight client. Oh, right. Hey, look. You need to install Silverlight to see this demo. I
Yeah.
don't think that will work.
No, but the details don't have to be don't have to be there anymore.
No.
But it gives you an indication that you've been working on it for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Yep. Yep. So yeah, my my goal with the first step is was to get kind of the list of the various content that I had put out there, to get those things all in one place, and to kind of start a home that we could then build some new features on. So yeah, the things that you were just talking about, getting information about historical modeling up there, like I want to have some information up here about running a historical modeling workshop. So provide some resources for doing that. We have some videos up there about how that's done. All that good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just let this thing grow a bit. Yeah. So that is what is happening.
Mm-hmm. That's
in that world.
It has been a lot of work and a very nice progress.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, quite pleased with what Samid was able to put together. So he, at the beginning, he and I went back and forth on wireframes, and so he put some design concepts together, and then went in and built a whole Gatsby site. I gave him a starter Gatsby site that just had all of these markdown files. It's like, here's a bunch of my courses, here's a bunch of my talks. So he had content to start with, but then he just said, "Nah, I don't like the way that one's organized. Let me just go ahead and create a new one. Boom, here's all the stuff." But now it's in a point that that I can keep it up to date. I can add more stuff. Okay, so we talked about launching michaelperry.net. Yeah, so then on our agenda we still have the Janaga.net documentation and the replicator documentation. Did you have anything specific about the Janaga.net documentation you wanted to go over?
If we have some time, perhaps the diagram, we could work on that together.
Mm-hmm.
I have to see where was that original already. I think it Naga structure, was it this one or was it do you remember that diagram?
Let me bring up.
Either it was made in what is that program? Yet another editor. Was the extension of that one? I'm starting it up. File, recent documents. What is it? Flowchart, JavaScript, and friends ground. Oh no, these are different ones. It was GraphML, but that's not the one. Then was there using too many tools and use them from time to time. I see here. It was, it was Excalibur, which was an online website. And we could share that drawing.
Oh, that's right, yes.
But what was the latest version? Load, export. I didn't use it for a while. If I would say, it still has a. Let me share it with you. Start session. Copy. So I will just paste that in. Go to general. Oh, but I'm not sure whether that's perhaps a link that stays active. How can I send it to you? A message at Michael and L. Perry. I've sent it to you specifically,
Okay.
I think.
Yes.
Now, where is that site gone?
Okay.
Do you see it on
We
your
are,
side?
yep, we are there.
Okay. How is this program working? So the things where I have some difficulties is where do we use that specification language? And where do we save, for example, was there a pointer here? Or can I? It's too long that I didn't use this. No way to point something. Do you see my cursor or not?
No, I don't.
But you see the drawing.
Yes, yeah, I am on the drawing page.
Because I only have one live cooperation. Strange. If I do you see that line that I've drawn
Um,
on top of the diagram?
No, I don't.
I don't think you're in the collaboration session.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, it says live collaboration. So let me.
It's a link that ends with GQ. Perhaps you have an old link. I don't know.
Yeah, so I've got a link that ends in 5G, 8J5G.
No.
That was yeah, that was today.
Oh. Am I not seeing everything from that link here? I paste it. Oh yeah. It's just not showing me everything in that box here.
I do see a GQ inside of the link.
Yeah.
All right, so back to the calendar. Okay, now I see the line. There's the line.
Okay, and now I see your cursor.
Okay.
What happened?
Not
And now I
certain.
see indeed that they are the two of us.
Okay.
And now you should see my cursor as well, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. Good. So if we want to delete something, can we just? How can we delete something? Be able to.
Yeah,
click.
there's a yeah.
So. So they are the communications here. There was a read and a fetch. We can just draw on it, and I can make it nice later on. What was there?
Yeah, the read and write are not intended for the Janaga.net or the Janaga.js client, though. So we probably want to indicate that they are for human consumption.
Okay. So what we can do is just make here. Let's call it. Jinaga Management Studio.
There we go. That's a good name for it. Yeah, I think JMS is a Java thing. Java messaging system, I think.
Okay, we can find something afterwards.
Yeah.
But I think every abbreviation in the world is already taken.
Yeah. Well, people say, "Oh, you're using JMS under the covers." Okay, this is built on some old technology.
No, but at least for the moment, the intention is there.
Yeah, yeah, because it calls out SQL Server Management Studio, because that's the experience that I've
Yeah.
referenced for what we were trying to accomplish.
No, this thing is not breaking. Nah, it doesn't matter. It
Yeah, we can clean it up later.
Just for now. So this one will be. So we have a read, and we had a fetch as well.
Right.
Right. Okay. And so this was just giving us the results and the specification language.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So here we need, in this communication, we need the specification language. But then on this interfaces, we are also using the save.
Yeah, save is still save. Yeah.
Yeah.
The polling line that we can change. It would no longer be the pipeline syntax. That would still be the specification syntax, just like the human can use. And
so this one becomes specification. Yeah, syntax.
Yeah, and we can call that feeds.
Language. And so this one disappears. Or you intend to keep it keep that one current as well?
Nope, no, I intend to replace the pipeline syntax altogether. That will be deprecated. So
and then notification.
Yeah. Yeah. So the what I'd like to do is change the name polling to feeds, and that I'm wondering if that is if that's a good way to document what's really going on. That it is in fact the notification mechanism as well. Yeah, we can just go ahead and fix it. Yeah, so so kind of what I'm thinking there is that you post to the feeds endpoint /feeds, and here's the specification language, just like you would for the /read. But if you have any field level projections, those are ignored. Typically, you wouldn't have them in this feeds post. But then what it does is it builds up all of the different feeds that are necessary in order to satisfy that specification. And so that's what we saw before, where it was in the interactive, where it was just returning a bunch of JSON, so an array of feeds, and then each one had its own bookmark and all that stuff. For the real thing, for the HTTP endpoint, rather than return that set of objects, what I want it to do is return a set of URLs. So that's all you get. You say here, I'm going to post to the server this specification that I want, and then it gets back. Okay, here's a bunch of URLs. Each one represents one of those feeds.
Okay.
So then you can go back and you can pull an individual feed using that URL, and you send in the bookmark that you have for that feed at that point, and then it responds with the data for that feed, and then the bookmark for the next one.
Yeah. But so then there is still a polling besides the feeds, because the feeds gives you all the feeds by way of the URL for each feed.
Yeah.
And then you go and retrieve the actual data by pointing to the URLs.
Yes.
Yes.
So actually, we probably do need another line just right underneath feeds. That's just feed. So that's going to be the actual URL is going to be /feeds/ and then some hash. It's going to be a hash of the.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't come back. It's
right. It is a, and this one is going to be a get. So you're going to you're going to include the pipeline or the bookmark as a query parameter, and you're going to get, and then
this one is just a feed. Then I can get with a bookmark. And so what we get there is just the individual records.
Yes.
For one feed.
Yes. Yeah, and that is that is actually so yeah, we're getting to a pretty detailed documentation here. So let's keep it detailed. There's just one more level. So the individual records that you get back are fact type and hash. So it's the fact reference.
Yeah. And then later you can still go and load the. Oh,
right.
What did I do here?
Right, and then you load the all the details about the fact from that fact reference.
So returns fact references. So, and that is equal to the hash plus
plus the
fact
type.
reference plus the type.
Yeah.
So all that is just here.
Okay.
Yep.
And then that last step is what you were just saying. Then you load, and you give it the fact reference, or a collection of fact references, and then it gives you back a tree. So a bunch of actual fact data, including all of its predecessor relationships, and it gives it back as an array of those things in topological order. So that's an entire tree, or graph, really, a subgraph. Although internally I call it a tree, and tree isn't the right term, but
subgraph.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then, so now we do it in three steps. So when the application starts, the application will send a specification language for all the feeds we need within the application at once. And then you open a first screen, then it will use that URL to get the information for that specific screen. Is that correct?
It will immediately start fetching all of those feeds because it doesn't know which ones are necessary for which screen. But that is something that happens in the background. So if you want the application to fetch screen by screen, then what you would do is call feeds for with just the specification language for that screen, and then start fetching each of the different facts for each of those different feeds.
But then this feed. So the moment that you send this feeds to the feeds endpoint, the specification language, does it trigger the notifications?
Yeah, so that's where things are starting to get a little bit fuzzy. So we were talking about HTTP 2.0 notifications, and so we really have to talk about different client types and how they're going to receive notifications. So we were talking about HTTP 2.0 notifications for a web client, and actually this mechanism here is better optimized for that web client. So we've got the information that's going to be coming back on those feeds. That is now the HTTP 2.0 mechanism for notification.
And what do we, for example, an Android client, which has a native, or an iOS, which has a native notification mechanism?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Then you would be, in order for it to do a better job of managing the battery, you would want to have the background system stop completely. You know, to close all connections after it has reached the end of each of those feeds. And so then that's where the native notification for Android or for iOS comes into play. So yeah, that notification coming back the other way, that's the one that we just want to focus on the native client.
Okay. So in fact, this notification mechanism and also the subscribing, because the subscribing is in fact the feeds endpoint.
Yeah. What I think I want to do there is that if you're on a mobile device, then you're going to have some information that you want to make sure you keep live, and other information it's okay for it to become stale. People are used to, I open up the app, the information that I see in the app doesn't change in real time, but if I navigate around and I come back, then I see like a little loading indicator and more information shows up, that kind of thing. Or maybe pulled refresh, all that stuff. So that would be the kind of the default behavior. So you can get all that behavior with feeds, and then the application just stops stops fetching those feeds when it reaches the end. But then for a native application, if you do subscribe, what I'm thinking I want to do is send in the particular feeds that I'm subscribing to. So I don't have to subscribe to everything in the application. I can subscribe to, these are the things that are really important, are in real time. So, this application has all sorts of data, but then there's some of it that is like real-time communication. So if somebody sends me a message, I want to know about that. But if there's a new video available, then maybe a pulled refresh gets me that new video, that kind of thing. So So then what you would do as an application developer is you would subscribe to that particular specification that's just um, messages. And then so the application would call feeds with that specification language, get back an array of URLs, and then call subscribe with that array of URLs. And so, okay, anything that comes in on these particular URLs, these particular feeds, then I want you to notify me by calling calling back on this native endpoint.
Okay. So subscribing, it actually goes with a particular URL.
Yeah, it's going to be a feed URL or an array of feed URLs. Yeah, you should be able to subscribe to a whole block of feeds. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead and call out that these are feed URLs. I think we'll forget that later.
Like this.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
And then the notifications will just be native. These will not be HTTP 2.0 notifications.
Okay. Looks good. And then what happens, for example, here I store a fact. I create a fact. It is first stored in the memories in the iStore, for example, SQLite.
Mm-hmm.
And then via the queue, it will be saved to the server.
Yes. That is still the correct path. Yes.
Yeah. But then if I query for a fact, is gonna send, if I do a query, it will look into the local database.
Mm-hmm.
And if the fact is not there, it will immediately, how could the fact be not there? You have in the background, is he feeding all the feeds?
Yes. Yeah. So in the background, it will take that that specification. I think we can probably change pipeline compiler to specification compiler. And so it's going to take that specification, get the feeds for that specification, and then start the background process of pulling those feeds. And then there is a mechanism by which it knows whether that background process is finished under the covers. So yeah, j.query. What I think I would like to do there is it kind of enhance that background waiting process a little bit, so that it has a timeout. So it's going to kick off that background process, do a little timeout on it, and then either it's going to report back that it's finished and it has all of the information related to those feeds, or it's going to be continuing in the background. But then at that point, it returns whatever information it has in the local store. So I expect that to be a pretty fast timeout. That'll be the sort of time that a person is willing to wait for a call to the server.
So that's actually on this return path.
Yes.
That we have a timeout.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, we'll probably also update the API, the function you can call, so that you can specify what that timeout should be. You should be able to override it. Like by default, it might be 1 second, or it might be 3 seconds. I'm not sure.
Mm.
But then you could override it and say, yeah, no, I really just want what is currently in memory. So set the timeout to 0. And then, yeah, it'll kick off the background process, but then it won't wait. It'll just return what's in memory, or what's in the local store.
Okay. And if you go to j.watch, we have exactly the same.
Yep.
But it's not going to be a pipeline
Yeah,
inverter.
it'll be a specification inverter. Yeah.
Why is it all moving? I see. I've selected. Inverter, and that's subscribe. Okay. Then when you do a query, so it compiles a specification, it's going to do a local query in the database, and at the same time, it sends the specification through the feeds interface.
Yes.
Because right now, wait, how was it? No.
Yeah, right now it just doesn't have a timeout, so it always sends the specification to the backend and just waits for the backend to give it back information, puts that into the local database, and then it runs the query out of the local database.
At the moment that it arrives, the notification, then it will start running this query and give the results back.
Right, yes. Yes, so if we just put a timeout in there, then go ahead and run it against the backend, let the backend populate the local database, and then when the timeout expires, then you run the query against the local database.
So if you put that timeout very little, then you risk to read from your local database and not have it updated by the server.
Yes. Yes, which might be a deliberate decision. You might say, well, this is the kind of application that the user returns to over and over again, and they just want it to be really fast. They want to just see whatever happens to be there right now. But know that in the background, it's fetching more data. So if they pull to refresh, then immediately they see that new data, for example.
Okay. And so then here the specification, that one goes directly to SQLite also.
Yes, that one, the j.watch actually happens in the opposite order than j.query. So it first goes to the local store and then starts sending back the information that it has from the local store. And then it starts the feeds against the server, and then as the server responds with information, it's going to put it into the local store and notify. That's the reason that j.watch is able to do that in the opposite order, is that there's this other mechanism by which it can tell you later, hey, I've got new information. Whereas j.query, here's the data, and we're done. There's only one chance.
last time I was thinking we do 2 steps. We go from j.query to the specification language.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have, from the specification language, we go to SQL to access the databases.
Mm-hmm. That is still true. So we want to go to the specification language first, and then turn the specification language into SQL to run the query against SQLite. Meanwhile, take that same specification language and call feeds.
Yeah. So in that way, we stay consistent between the local store and the server.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because you might, for jQuery, you might just generate direct SQL and access SQLite directly. And on a parallel path, you generate specification language and you send it to the server.
Mm-hmm.
But then you risk to have inconsistencies between the two.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and that would be a slight optimization, but probably not worth it to risk that inconsistency. Yeah.
Okay. And then this becomes also the specification inverter.
Correct, yes. Yes, exactly the same specification inverter as we have on the client side.
All right.
Yeah, it's behind the box on my screen, but maybe it's just...
You can scroll.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the text showed up behind the box, so the box was covering it up. But yeah, it popped to the front now, so that's weird.
Okay. I think you can do bring behind and bring to the front, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on it, you get a text box, some properties on the left, and there you have layers.
Okay.
It's quite a powerful tool. This tool, I like to use it, but I seldom do.
Yeah.
Let's see already to export this. Save to disk, just to make sure we don't lose this.
Yes.
You can save it on your side as well. To save, you go left top, and there the second icon is export.
Okay.
I don't expect my place to burn down and to to lose the only copy. But if you have a copy, it's always and then would it be useful to add where exactly in the code this happens, that we put the name of the modules?
I think that would clutter up this diagram a little bit too much.
Yeah. And it would always be behind, because
Yeah.
every time something changes in the code.
Yeah. Yeah, I would hope that that somebody new to the code would be able to see, oh, I'm looking for j.watch, I'm looking for j.query. So let me jump right into the code where that happens. Yeah, right now they would have to say, well, j is a Janaga object, so let's go to the Janaga class, and then we've got watch and we've got query, and then I see, oh, that is just calling into this, this, probably at that level, it's the authentication object, and trace it down through there. Yeah, there's probably another diagram that that needs to describe how all the pieces are put together, at least for the JavaScript version. Maybe we can do better in the .NET version, But yeah, in JavaScript, there are lots of different objects that are injected into one another, and it builds this graph. And it changes the shape of the graph based on how you configure. So it's like if you've got local storage, then put these pieces into the graph. But if not, then you've got different pieces. Um, and that's pretty handy for single responsibility. It's like, okay, when I'm working on the memory store, then I'm just focusing on what memory store does. But the one level up, the thing that calls the memory store would be the fork. So that's saying I need to store something, and then I need to call a service. So that's the point at which it forks, and it does that fork in different directions based on whether it's a query or a watch. And so it's handy to be able to think about just one aspect of the algorithm at a time. However, that does make it a lot more difficult to figure out what happens when I do a JDAT-query versus JDAT-watch. So those nuances that we just talked about, you have to go to several different classes in order to figure out, oh, that's where that difference occurs. So maybe that could be clearer, but I want to first try to make it clearer in source code, and then diagram where the source code fails.
Good. I will go over it, clean up a little bit, and see and try to understand it more in the code, and perhaps add some pointers to the code. I don't know yet how it would be best.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, excellent.
And then the management studio is for the moment just that specification.txt file with the results option.
Mm-hmm.
But that can be extended in the future.
Yes. Yep, and it would be really nice to have the Janaga Management Studio to be an actual Visual Studio Code extension, complete with language support, and even be able to load the model from somewhere so you can get IntelliSense. So that's pretty cool. But yep, for right now, that's going to be sufficient. We will do that and move on.
You would like to make it an extension in Visual Studio?
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic.
And what would that? Oh, a little bit like the Data Explorer,
mm-hmm.
where you can add servers to Visual Studio. You can do SQL queries.
Mm-hmm.
Something in that sense, or?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, you see the different replicators that you're pointing to. Like, here's my local one. Here's the one that's deployed to the QA server. Here's the one that's in production. Be able to click on a replicator, open up a window, start typing in some specification language, and push a button at the top or hit a keystroke and say read, and then you get back the results. Maybe even visualize the results. So yeah, you can see them as JSON, or maybe you want to see them in a table format. Maybe that makes more sense.
But the thing that we miss there is a kind of discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Discovery of the model.
Yes, yeah. That would be the other thing that we could do with the extension is that if it also had a way of pointing to source code, or maybe some kind of some kind of model description that gets compiled. I'm not really sure exactly how we want to do that, but then as you're typing your specification language, it's giving you assistance not just in the syntax of the specification language, but also the model. So arrow, and then now you have IntelliSense. These are all of the predecessors on that particular type. And you pick the predecessor, and it fills in the type as well. So I know what type that predecessor is, and then keep on going.
Yeah, but that means that you need to have the model.
Yeah.
But based on the data, based on all the facts,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a lot and enough facts of in the database,
Mm-hmm.
you could automatically generate the model. No?
Yeah. Yeah. You probably could infer the model because yeah, the database has not just fact and edge, but it's got the fact type table and it's got the role table,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, it could query that and say, okay, I see that you're starting with this fact type. What are the different roles that use that fact type as a successor? And now that gives you all the predecessor names and all of their types. So yeah, that information it could be just pulled from the replicator, but only after somebody has actually created some
Has
facts of those types.
yeah.
Yeah, the replicator learns your model as you create facts. It doesn't. There's no mechanism right now for you to load a model up into the replicator.
And you're never sure that the model is complete.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the and actually the replicator might have old data from a previous model that you're no longer using, but those facts are still up there. So yeah, I think the best source of truth is the code that's on your machine that you are currently working on. So yeah, you should be able to experiment, create new types within the specification language. Create new facts in the specification language. Okay, yeah, that's the shape I want. Then go over here to JavaScript and write a class, or go to .NET and write a record, and say, yep, that describes the type. And then it should be able to figure out to just read that at runtime and say, okay, that's the model that now we're going to do IntelliSense against. So maybe your preferred mechanism is, let's just create those .NET records first, and then go over here and create some instances of those facts and put them into the replicator and start writing the specification language, and now you've got the IntelliSense there. So yeah, it's there's a few different ways that we could get that information. But yeah, I think for right now the best focus is on that feeds endpoint. So that gets us closer to having Janaga.net actually be able to talk to a replicator and get work done.
Yeah. For this one, for the studio, we can for the moment use specification.txt to try things out.
Yes. Yeah, that is still a very valuable tool to have.
Yeah, and also with Postman.
Mm-hmm.
This week I didn't play with it, but the week before I played a little bit with it, and it's very powerful. And
Nice.
you can really learn about the syntax, and the double arrows. I still have to try it out.
Uh-huh.
But,
Yep. Yeah, and as you do so, go up to janaga.com, and now when you click on Docs, it takes you to the replicator documentation. So yeah, we don't have time to go over that today, but yeah, that and in fact, I embedded the video from last week of demonstrating starting a replicator and doing all that.
The one that we did twice.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so I did edit down the video, so you just see the one that worked or that was recorded, and and yeah, the embed takes you straight to that starting point.
Okay, that's nice. All right, let's try that out again.
Very good.
Okay, Michael, see you next week.
Indeed. See you next week, Jan.
Thank you very much. Did you save a copy for yourself?
I did. Yes.
Okay, then we can just
Yep.
close that one. Okay, see you.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye.